All right, what's up? So today, I'm gonna be canning one of my favorite canned goods, and that is mixed veggies. And it consists of cauliflower, carrots, pickles, and onions. Um, the recipe is something I found from an old man who his family had been through the Depression, and it was the recipe that they relied on during that time, to keep their family nourished and fed. And This was years ago when I found this, and I really wish I still had his story here that I could share because it was pretty interesting to say the least. But anyway, yeah, I tried that recipe and it was delicious. It's like I said, one of my favorite things to can. So that's what I'm going to be working on here today. Um, I'm walking back here on my property towards the back part of my property here because I like to put fresh oak leaves in my jars when I'm putting cucumbers in there. It helps keep things crisp, so they don't get real soggy and soft. So I'm just walking back here to the back part of my property, to the wooded section, to grab some fresh oak leaves, and I thought I'd bring you with me on this part of it, and then uh, I'm gonna record obviously the process, and I'll have the recipe at the end for anybody who'd like to try it. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. It is a little bit of work. I mean, there's a lot of prep type stuff that has to take place, but like once you get everything ready, it goes pretty smoothly, and then at the end you got a great product. So yeah, so see here if I can switch you around. Well, I'll just flip it around here. Anyway, here's where I come and hit my tree for some good looking oak leaves here, and I just try and find a bunch that looks pretty healthy and not real holy. And I'm going to be filling about 12 jars today, so I'd say that looks like probably enough right there. So there we go. That's what we're looking at. Just some fresh oak leaves you put in each jar, and that helps keep things a little crisp. Uh, Beautiful day here. Now this morning, I went ahead and got all my jars ready um, and washed them. So when I get back here, I'm gonna sanitize everything and then get started on prepping all the vegetables. Um, Now this process, once you get everything in the jars, you're just using the water bath method um, to seal up the jars. So it's just I can fit 6 quarts in uh, my canning pot that I use. I can fit 6 quarts in there at once, and you want like 1 inch of water over all the jars, and basically you just boil them for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, you pull them out, set them aside, and just let them go undisturbed until you start hearing them pop. And then I usually just let them go till the next day. And then you can, write the date on the lid and put it with the rest of your preserves. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, so here's the produce. This is what it looks like. Got some jalapenos, garlic and onion, carrots, cucumbers, and the cauliflower. So I'm gonna get working on getting this stuff cut up and prepped for the jars, and I'll just keep popping in every once in a while to lead you through the process. All right, so got everything cut up and ready to go here. My helper's out here hanging out with me. Samson the Saint. But got this bowl of scraps. There you go, guys. Have at her. What's up, Bubby? All right. This is the last of it. Now I do also need to grab the lids and then some pickling spice. You need pickling spice, salt, white vinegar, and your produce. Be right back. All right, so yeah, I just got pickling spice here. Now we do have like everything individually as well. Like it's whole coriander seeds, mustard seeds, whole dill seeds, cut bay leaves, whole red chilies, and whole allspice. Now, in the past, we've gotten individual of each and then made our own pickling spice, but we found it pre-mixed, so that's what we're going with this time. I have, I believe, 6 of each jar, wide mouth and regular. So need to make sure you have that many lids prepared and ready to go. And like honestly, I wouldn't use anything else but ball. I've tried there a few years ago during COVID. Everybody must have been in panic mode. Everybody was buying up. You couldn't find a mason lid anywhere. Um, and in my local hardware store, I walked in, and on the corner shelf they had all these canning supplies, but it was, I can't remember, country something, I don't know, but it was junk. They sucked. We tried using them. The lids would literally like kink when they were under heat, and obviously not going to seal that way. So don't try and cut corners with your lids. Just use ball. It's the best product. It's been used for forever, for generations and generations have been using these lids successfully, and that's what I'm gonna recommend that you use. So I'm gonna need 6 regular and 6 wide mouths. So we get them ready. Basically, you're gonna want to what you're looking to do is put your lids. There's 3 of those. Um, you're going to want to sanitize your lids. Just put them in a pot with some boiling water. And I don't have enough regular. Give me 1 second. All right. So now that I got all my lids, then you will also need the rings. Make sure that you got the right ones for whatever type lid you're using. But I just put these in some water and boil them. What you want to do is boil them for a little bit here while you're getting things around. And then also, just to show you what I do, after I clean my jars, I put them in the oven on just a low heat, so just 170. Yeah, so I do that in the oven as well to sanitize them. You can also use a dishwasher, but just to make sure, you know, the jars and the lids and everything is clean before you start the process. It's a good idea to sanitize everything first. So, all right, so I got this is my water bath. It's just a big pot. And on the bottom there, it's got the thing for the jars, which I can tell that it looks like it's actually maybe upside down. Not sure it matters, but anyway, yeah. So kind of get everything prepped in your kitchen, ready here. Get a space set up so that it's easy to start packing your jars, and yeah. So we'll get the brine ready. Now the 12 jars, when I did these the other day, the initial recipe, it's just 1 cup to white vinegar to 1 cup of water. Like that's the ratio, and that's just how simple the recipe initially was. But when you're trying to do 12 jars, what's that translate to? Well, the other day when I did it, I've done this for years, and for some reason never wrote it down. I tried to deal with it each year, and it's like, why did I not write this down last year? Anyway, this year we're recording it here, so we'll know. But anyway, what it ended up being to get 12 quarts last time was it was 13 cups of white vinegar to 13 cups of water. Um, and that's what did 12 quarts. So that's what we're going to do again. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my white vinegar and get this on the stove because you want this brine to be hot. Like when you're packing the jars, you want it hot because the jars need to be hot when you stick them in this hot water. If they weren't, they'd crack instantly. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get 13 cups ready here, so I'm not trying to deal with it at the end like I had to do the other day, and just keep adding more and more. So there's 12, and then I'm just gonna do one more because I don't want to be scrambling around at the end if I'm a little short. So we're just gonna go ahead and do 13 because that's what it was last time. And so that should be good with the vinegar. So again, just match the amount. And you're gonna want to get that on high on the stove as well. There's 12. And then just one more to match the vinegar. And then that's set. All right, so, and I never turned that on. All right, so back in a minute. All right, well, that stuff's heating up. I'm gonna go ahead and take my oak leaves and get them washed off, prepped and ready. Just remove the leaf, back as far as you can, so you're not putting in a bunch of stem. So we'll get these ready to go, rinsed off and ready. And I just like to put one leaf in each jar. So we're just looking for 12 of the best ones you can find. All right, that should be good on that. Okay, so now what you need is the pickling spice and salt. And that's about out. So I'm just going to grab a full one here. What the recipe calls for is just it's 1.5 tablespoons of salt and 1.5 tablespoons of pickling spice. All you do is, which I'll show you here, but you're going to just put them directly into the jar with a leaf, a couple cloves of garlic, and then you start packing in your onion, cucumber, carrots, cauliflower, and jalapenos. So I think my my brine's definitely getting hot here. I have to turn this up. Hopefully that doesn't affect the sound too much. But basically, I'm about ready to go here. Get your jars ready. We'll do the largemouth first. I would have preferred, when I'm doing these, honestly, I prefer to use the wide mouth just because it makes it a little easier packing. Oh, why did I think I had? Damn it. Guess I only have 5 of those, so I'm gonna have to add one more lid. And anyway, I prefer to use the wide mouth just because it's easier to pack the jars. Um, but obviously, you can use whatever you have; doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, I got 7 and 5, not 6 and 6. So I need the extra lid and ring. So I'm gonna add them and remove that. Give me a minute. My dogs are being a pain in the ass. All right. Anyway, yeah, so we're about ready to rock here. So I'm going to go ahead and start packing the jars. And I'll just scoot you over a little closer here and see what I got going on. All right. So, like I said, when I start off doing this, you're going to want to take one leaf per jar. And then a couple cloves of garlic per jar. And I'm guessing I'll probably have enough to do 3 or 4 per jar. And then add your salt and pickling spice. So again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're looking for 1.5 tablespoons approximately of salt, and then I said 1.5 cups, or I'm sorry, 1.5 tablespoons of allspice. this one. Okay. And now you're ready to start packing the jars. So what I do is I start with the jalapenos. I just throw, I'm going to go with like 3 or 4 in each jar. And this, I don't usually eat these, but they just give the entire jar just a little bit of tang. So I like to include them for that reason. Got enough for 4. Some onions, and I just, again, these, I do eat these, but they also just give it that flavor, add that onion flavor to the mix. Now the ratio isn't nearly as much onions as the other stuff. Again, I'm not real big on eating them. I mean, I do, but it's more, for me, it's just more of a flavor thing. You don't even have to include them if you don't want to. And then you're ready to start packing the jars. So I prefer to start with the cauliflower since it's the biggest. And you just want to get it, you're going to want to pack it in there, but you want to kind of do it in thirds. So I try to fill like the jar up a third of the way with the cauliflower, and then a third of carrots, and then a third of cucumbers. But whatever you can get in there, the closest you can get, or you can mix it up if you prefer more cucumbers or more, whatever you prefer, you can do more if that's what you want to do. But I try to just match them up. That's good. In each step, just kind of shove things down in there a little bit just to make sure you're fitting as much as possible of everything. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have a little bit of cauliflower left over, but that's all right. These heads were a lot bigger than ones I used the other day. But again, that's like my favorite part of this mix, so I don't mind if it's a little heavy with the cucumbers or the cauliflower. I don't know why I can't get that right. All right, good enough. Then I will add carrots. And then lastly, your cucumbers. Now these I like to use last and on top because you can usually shove them in down around the jar and get as many packed in there as you can. It seems to be the easiest one to do at the end as far as making up the space. So just get as many in there as we can. Now keep in mind, at the end, you're going to want to make sure nothing really goes over the top of the rim because you want to leave that head space in there. Same with the brine. You're only going to fill it up to the top of the vegetables there. At the bottom of this rim, you want to have that head space in there. So that's pretty much what the jar is going to look like. So get each one of them loaded up with your cucumbers, and we're about ready to add the brine and start our water bath process. Now, you do at the end take what I try to use is a plastic fork, and you run that down around the sides of the jar, and that releases any of the air pockets that are down in the bottom of the jar. It releases them up to the top. So that's something you're going to want to do at the end. So just don't overdo this part with packing them in there because you are going to disrupt them uh, once you get the brine in there. That's like one of the last steps is doing that before you go ahead and put the lids on. So you don't want to overpack them because it's going to bring, once you do that, it's going to disrupt everything a little bit and it will bring them out. So just make sure that you leave a little bit of room for that consideration. But typically, once it's in there, you can just kind of work everything back down and then be ready to go. So what I was saying is what I like to do is just you can kind of work with these cucumbers, you can work them down around the sides like that. And then in the middle, then you can just stack them in the middle. And so that kind of helps get as much in the jar as possible. All right. And now once your jars are all packed, you got as much as you can absolutely shove in there. Should look something like this. All right. All right. So now we're going to start adding the brine to the jars. Just make sure your water bath is boiling and ready when you do this because like I said, you want these to be hot and ready to go as soon as you get them filled. And again, what we're looking to do is fill each jar to about the rim line of the jar. You want to leave that half inch to an inch of headspace above that. All right. And now, like I mentioned, you're just going to take, um, like a plastic fork and just run it down as far as you can down into the jar the whole way around. Just work it down in there the whole way around. You'll see pockets of air bubbles coming up to the top. You want to get as much of that out of there as possible. And most of them are hanging down deep, so you want to try and get the whole way to the bottom of the jar and release those to the surface. And like I said, once you do that, it kind of disrupts this stuff, but you just push it back down in there a little bit. You just want to maintain that space in the top of the jar. So as long as you got that, you'll be good. And then you're going to want to go around and do that to every jar. And you'll see sometimes when you do this part, like there, that jar was full to where I wanted it. But as soon as I shoved this down in there, it hit a pocket, and now I can see that it's only about half full. So I got to add more brine in here. So you definitely want to make sure that you do this, or else when you're canning, you're going to have a lot of air trapped in the jar. And to get as much stuff in there as possible, you got to try and get as much of the air out of there as possible. Well, there, once I shove things back down, it doesn't need as much as it looked like, but still needs to add some. So just get it up above. Just going to want your brine to be just above all your vegetables. So yeah, I mean this part of it, like once you got everything prepped and ready and everything set up and ready to roll here, I mean this part of it goes fairly quickly. It's not bad at all. And I'm telling you, in the end, what you'll have is a delicious treat, that'll be shelf stable for years. I mean, years. The jar I just opened the other day was actually from 21. So that particular jar, I'm surprised it lasted that long. It was our last jar that I opened. So we must not have made any. I think I made a bunch that year, and so we didn't have to make any for a couple years. And obviously, it didn't get eaten as much. But it's like one of those things. If you don't see it, you don't think of it. It's in there on a shelf, and but every once in a while, man, I'll get a taste in my mouth for this, and it's delicious. So yeah, this year I wanted to make sure I did 12 jars the other day, and I thought that's not enough, especially being that like I just used our last jar from the past. So I wanted to do 12 more here. So we're gonna bang out 24, and hopefully that's enough to get us through the year. But this is something that you can do anytime. Um, I mean, I try to do the canning, when everything's in season, but there's nothing stopping you from grabbing this stuff from the store any time of year and doing this. So we run out, we'll just make some more. But I'm the only one really. I mean, my wife does like this as well, and my youngest son will eat pretty much anything. But this is more. This is more of like one of my treats, so it doesn't really get eaten all that much. So I think 24 jars should get us through the year. All right, and then the last step is to just take a damp paper towel and just run it around the edge of all the jars just to make sure that they're clean and ready for the lids. And that's that. Now you're ready for some lids. Um, I am missing a couple of things, so give me 1 minute here. So a couple things that you'll need to do this. One of these bad boys for getting the jars out of the water. These to deal with your lids. And one of these for filling your jars with the brine. So now these jars are ready to go. I had all my lids and rims boiling in water. So I'm going to go ahead and anyways, you're going to want to get them all ready to go. Of course, I dropped one. I'm sure it's fine. You got the 10-second rule. So, yeah, you're just going to place your lids on each of the jars. And then go around and just snug up the rings. Okay, and then once that's done, I just go around. You don't have to crank these tight. I just go around and hand tighten each one of these, and now they're ready for the water bath. And like I said, you just want to make sure that that water is actually boiling when you do this. Now I get the pot about 3/4 full with water because I know that that's going to get me pretty close. Um, but you may need to add a little bit more once you get them in there. But basically what you need is like an inch of water above all the jars, and you should be good. So actually, I forgot. You can actually fit 7 in there, so we could have did 14. And I may end up doing that if I have the extra stuff, but this video, we're just going to go with 12 here for now. So now, anyway, before I forget, you want to get the timer set for 10 minutes on that. These are going to be water bathed for 10 minutes. Should look something like that. And then 10 minutes. Now, while that's happening, that's the time to get your other jars out. And you can start packing the rest of your jars if I can find my mittens. All right, so same process. A leaf in each jar start. Your garlic. Onions. So right at the end, perfect. Same with the. Oh, before I get too far here, I like to do this part before instead of at the end. So you're gonna want to get your salt and allspice in there, or your pickling spice. But if you forgot and did it at the end, I don't think it would matter. I just prefer to do it at the beginning. As long as you get it in there, should be good. And again, 1.5. All right. And I found that uses about it's about 1.5 to 2 of these. These are 2.75 ounce. Okay, now we can start packing the veggies in. And I do believe we're gonna have some cauliflower left over, but it's all right. Just use it in salads or whatnot. At least it's already cleaned and ready to go. Since we're at the end, I'm just gonna make a little more effort to get as much in here as possible. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then again with carrots. And again, that worked out pretty good. All right, and then, oh, I forgot the jalapenos. Don't forget about those. Just get them in there. And then I'm just going to use these up. Get them seeds in there. It'll make it a little spicier. That's why I like to leave the seeds. I don't de-seed the jalapenos when I'm doing them. If you leave the seeds in there, it'll get in there and give this some extra kick. So again, just get everything pressed down in the best that you can. And then we are ready for the cucumbers. And honestly, like these cucumbers, the smaller ones, like the diameter being smaller is better, because like when they're real big, like even these were just a little bit on the big side, I would say. It gets hard to get these to utilize the space in the jar the way you'd like. So, um, like the about 2-inch diameter cucumber, I would say would be about the perfect size cucumber. And now my timer's going off, so it has been 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these jars from the water bath. So that is it right there. Just look at that. Beautiful color arrangement. And man, are these ever good. So that's that. Get back to this. Pretty close. Pretty close. I don't know if I can get them all fit. I'm going to try like how. Last one. Perfect. I love when a plan works out. Doesn't always happen that way. All right, so same thing. Water pot's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and get these filled up. We're about done here. I think I started this at 11 and it's a quarter of 1. So you're looking at about 2 hours. And, maybe you're better in the kitchen than I am. And with cutting things up, whatnot, you might even be able to shrink that down some. But I got about 2 hours in it. And I can tell you it is well worth the effort. So it looks like the other day when I did 12, I had to add one at the end, or actually, so one ratio. So I had to add, 1 cup of vinegar and 1 cup of water and scramble around at the end to try and heat it up quick to try and make sure everything was still hot, get the bottles and or into the pot. Um, but this time it looks like I have about a cup or so left, so I could have probably got away with 12. So at the end, I'm going to go ahead and put up a written recipe for this, but I'll have on that 12, but just know that it could be, I'm going to say anywhere from probably 10 to 14. It might vary a little bit. Um, and again, it might actually be perfect once I do this because I had to add some in the other jars, but it wasn't a whole lot. So I'm thinking it'll be the same here. Well, that one went down quite a bit. So yeah, maybe it might be perfect. The number might be 13. That might be the magic number for 12 jars. We will see. It's nice when everything works out and at the end, all your bowls, all your pans, everything's empty. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to add more to each one of these jars, so we may end up using it up. All right, good enough. So these two, we need more. Yeah, actually, that worked out to be just about perfect. So I would say 13 is the magic number because there is barely any left. So So yeah, that was perfect. You just go around with your paper towel, wipe all the sealing areas off. One last press to make sure everything's submerged in the brine. And we are good to go. Again, just hand tight. And then get them in the pot. And that is that. So it'll just be another 10 minutes, which better start the timer before I forget. All right, so 10 minutes is up. Get these bad boys out. So I feel like my wife might have told me that I'm using these backwards, that it's supposed to be this way, maybe. That would make sense, but it still gets the job done, so don't hammer me too hard. Anyway, yeah, there we go. 12 jars full of mixed veggies. Shelf stable for years. Absolutely delicious. So that's all I got. Say goodbye, Samps. Say goodbye, Samps. You gonna say goodbye, Samps? Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. There'll be more where that came from.